we want to keep our muscle.
Yeah.
Like we want it. It's just functionally just the best. There's like two paths. Go heavy, take some breaks in between sets, and do core movements, and or do a volume.
You don't have to pick, is my starting answer.
That's a great answer.
You don't have to. So if you like and you're more comfortable and are finding more success with heavier, less frequent, great. If you're the opposite, that's fine too. The best thing one can do for skeletal muscle is to not take big times, and by that I mean weeks and months off of training. Move.
Yeah.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't be scared.
Welcome to Super Life with me, Darren O'Lean, a podcast where we explore, discover, and share solutions that promote a healthier life and a better world. Together, we'll ignite possibilities, inspire change, and build sovereignty, creating a roadmap towards a super life for you and for all. Get ready to start living your super life. Welcome to the show, Andy. I'm stoked you're here. Refreshing myself. I mean, we met, God, it's got to be a decade ago.
Yeah, at least 8 years, maybe more.
Yeah. Really the start of XBT.
Yeah, the pre-start of XBT, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't even. I think it was changing names at the time.
Yeah, I don't think it even had a name. So
right.
We were origin story for sure, before people were excited about ice work and excited about breathwork and all that.
For sure.
We were early.
Oh my God. The experiments we were doing. Way back in the day in Laird's Pool, we still had Vibrams on because we didn't realize to calm down. We were sprinting and tearing up our feet. So we were using Vibrams early days. And then we're stacking breath. We're passing out.
Yep.
You're like, okay.
Innovation isn't always clean.
What not to do.
Yeah, lessons were learned.
There was a few moments of that. But yeah, we were down at the beach and do talks and winging it, really.
Most definitely.
So anyway, but I was kind of looking through your work and your CV. Congrats on being a tenured professor, by the way.
Thank you.
That's no joke. My father was, and I'm always aware of the commitment that it takes and all of what you've been doing. It's like you have really dedicated yourself, and it feels as though even though you're fully down the rabbit hole on many of these points of study, from nutrition to performance, and really, what is your PhD? Seriously, because I was looking at human energetics.
Human bioenergetics is technically the term.
Yeah.
It's a fancy way of saying, in my case, muscle physiology.
Yeah.
What is, in essence, how we're creating and producing energy at the cellular level.
Yeah.
But really, my work was bigger than that. My dissertation specifically was I was able to identify a method of measuring proteins and individual muscle fibers in humans. And so this is the first time we were able to do that, and that allowed a whole wing of science to get specificity where we've never had it before. But that said, I was always interested in the bigger part of that. And the reason I liked to study humans at that level was to say we have to have some connection between mechanism and human. I always felt like a lot of the science in those areas, whether you're looking at really mechanistic research, it didn't matter, right? It's like, well, how's that going to work? It's not.
Right.
If you looked at it from the population level, epidemiology, it was like, okay, now there's your problems there. And so I always wanted to say we have to be able to make these two areas of research combine to where we get something practical and useful while we're still learning more about, and you said before we started shooting, I can't remember how you phrased it, but it was wonderful, is what are these central truths?
Right.
There has to be something we can learn there. So Human Bioenergetics was a fancy way for me to get into that area. And so what I do now is much more extensive and expansive than just that, but that's really technically what my scholastic background was.
Yeah. So now, because even looking at your website, it's almost as if I was reading the synopsis of a film. And I say that because it's education, it's inspiration, which you used, which I thought was wonderful from a scientist, basically. You're
Yeah.
like, you realize like in order to, and storytelling. So in order to bridge that gap, it has to be, number one, applicable. Because if you're talking about actin and myosin, well, how the fuck does that relate to, how does that help me?
You know, that's a great question. I know you didn't really intend that to be a question, but I'll answer it because I think this is a perfect microcosm of exactly what I do and why I've set it up that way. Actin and myosin are two of the small filaments in muscle that contract, that cause it to squeeze. Why do I care? Well, you don't, unless it's interesting. That's all it is. It is a method of us going, wow, did you know that? And someone in the room is going to go, I don't care. Because someone in the room is listening, going, I just want to know how to train people, how to recover. Fine. But someone in the room is going to go, huh, that's super interesting. That might change their career. Right. That might change their life. And I know that because I've been that person. And I have seen that person, having taught now for well over a decade. I have seen countless lectures on what I'll call throwaway rhymes. Right. Like in rapper terms, like these are rhymes you throw, like but then it changed somebody's life. It grabs somebody.
Right.
So you never know. And really, the way that I put those phrases on that website was for that. If I can give something to somebody that is going to inspire them, it doesn't matter that information per se is useful. And I can tell you that because there's been tons of times in my career where that's happened to me, and I didn't even care about that topic. It launched me into something else, but that was the thing that goes, boom, inspiration and working with people. This is their health journey. So it is, they're not interested in their health. They're not interested in performance. And then one little thing, they hear about water, or they hear about happiness, or they hear about getting stronger. And that gets them started on their journey. Their journey ends somewhere else entirely, but it doesn't matter. What you're trying to simply do, at the core, having thought about this for a long time in my life, going all the way back and thinking like, what is it? Why did I get into this field? Why do I care? Why have I done the things I've done? For me, it goes all the way back to my parents really gave me one gift. And that one gift was be ambitious. That's all they didn't say it that way ever. It was never conscious. It was more of like, we don't want you to do what we had to do, so do whatever, but you're not doing this. And what that really distilled it is, it made me want to be ambitious. It made me want more things. Science was an avenue I found, but I wasn't in love with science. I didn't know any scientists growing up. I didn't know any lawyers or doctors. Like no one in my community was like that. Right. But my parents were like, you're going to use school and you're going to have a better life than us. Just because that was an option, and that's the first thing that they came up with. And so if I can give that same gift to somebody else, maybe ambition doesn't matter for them. Ambition is a two-edged sword, right? That's often, there's problems with that. But if I can use ambition for one person, if I can use entertainment for another one, if I can use inspiration, and to me, the last part of it was storytelling, in the sense that academically, I'm not, and I never was very strong. And I'm not being humble about that. Horsepower-wise, IQ-wise, memory-wise, I am very average, extraordinarily average. I'm really honest about that. I got through where I got through and got to where I've got to because of many gifts and talents, but a lot of it was just simply I worked harder than everybody. Right. All of my groups that I studied with, I would go way longer than they would. Everyone that I did projects with, it took me longer. Right? I knew I'm going to have to get there this route. Okay? So if I can simply say, hey, there is something on the other side of this, and if your talent is academics, great. If your talent is hard work, great. Like you're going to find some path there if you choose to go down a path. I just simply want them to get people to know I can inspire you to get there. And then trust me, if you don't have the talent, that's only one method. Right. But there are plenty of other methods too.
Right. Well, I think that's such a great muse because hearing that too, like I got hurt playing football in college and that changed my life. Yep. And I was like, I got to get shit better. So I left my college. This was at Augsburg in Minneapolis, transferred to the University of St. Thomas and changed my major, physiology. It was almost like a liberal arts version of nutrition, physiology, kinesiology, Hell, we learned how to tape fucking ankles back in the
Yeah,
day
yeah,
for a
yeah.
period of time. So it was like, but then physiology too, and like and it was hard.
Yeah.
It was like, I love this stuff, and certain things stuck out, and you're going like, it's funny when you're saying that. I'm thinking about, and I'm going to tell this story a little later, my creatine story, early days.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
I have, and I love how now everyone's saying it's good, even though the science has always kind of said it's good, but just people didn't,
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's like in reflection of the big picture, we talked about creatine. We talked about how the energy worked. But it wasn't landing necessarily at the time. Hell, I was having a hard time between parasympathetic and sympathetic. I'm like, what the fuck? How does this?
Sure.
I'm looking at charts going, but it's not making sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I so this stuff academically, the way it was, but kinesiology,
Yep.
when we had cadavers and we had
Game changer, right?
like I can figure, I remember the last, our last final was like, okay, a pitcher's throwing a pitcher to the mound.
Yeah.
Go. Mechanisms of action.
Yeah.
Like everything from your fucking toe
Yeah.
to like, and like I can figure that out.
Yep.
Right? Mechanically. I can just go and, and all the muscles and the ligaments and tendons and bones. So
Yeah.
it's hard.
It
I'm
is.
saying that to like, I'm intimidated next to you because I quit like physiology in a sense, like I, got a BA in it, but I fucking lost so much of that skill.
Yeah.
But also life brought me to all kinds of different things. So it's interesting that I'm just fascinated by what you're saying.
Yeah, because honestly, like the reason I was saying that part about cognitively I'm not in particularly strong, the only way I got through was the hard work, but the only way I got through that was because I could tell stories in my head. I have a very large imagination. One thing people don't know much about me. And so I would sit there in those same lectures, probably like you, and I would go back to my dorm or whatever afterwards and be like, wait, what? Gone. Wake up the next day, be like, we talked about this yes, like just, it's not there, right? So I would have to daydream and try to come up with stories that connected something to something to something else.
Right.
The picture example, something else, I'm off going, That was how I would capture those things into memory for myself. So then when I started teaching, it was my EQ in the class was much higher than most teachers because I was like, oh, I don't know what it's like to be that person who heard this the one time and they're going to spit it back. I know what it likes to be that person going, we talked about that yesterday in class. I have no recollection of this thing. And I was aware and I was paying attention and I was not on my phone and I was taking notes. And it's just, it's gone. So I always approach teaching like that, from that person's perspective and going, I'm not going to teach down. I'm not taking information away. I'm not going to make your criteria softer or easier. No. But I'm going to make it try to my best, bring it so that I would have remembered, or somebody like me, and then challenge the person at the top and then the person at the bottom, try to give them some way. And so having success in the classroom early with that, it was pretty easy for me to realize, all right, I think this will play well for everyone not in my class. And so then that would establish that core value of storytelling as a part of everything I do. So it's the way I write my papers. It's the way I coach our athletes and our non-athlete clients. It's the way that we run our companies. All of it is through storytelling at its core.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm just completely blown away by that because it's just like through these conversations, you would never know that because I'm looking at your stuff going, holy shit, this guy is freaking amazing what he's gone through.
Honestly, look at a lot of the stuff. I've actually had a couple of students do this, but you pull back on, again, the companies I work with, the way I do stuff, the way that I got in this part of my career, it's a big story. And a lot of it was very intentional. Here's an easy example. I came in from the college sports side of the equation, right? I'm a country kid with half of my high school I spent on a tractor.
Nice.
That's legitimately true. Nice. I was in the weight room or on a tractor for half of my classes.
Sound like all my college or all my high school friends, too.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm a country kid, so I show up at a pretty academic college. I was so underprepared. Like the very first anatomy test, I was like, what? I'll never forget sitting next to this kid, and he got like an 80% or something on the first anatomy quiz. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't study for it because I just had AP anatomy last semester in high school. And I was like, you had science in high school? Like anatomy, physiology. I'm like, they had a cadaver model thing. And I was like,
High school.
high school.
Wow.
And I was like, yo, we lifted weights and I built a baseball field. And then like, like that was my high school.
Wow.
A little bit of geometry class or whatever. And so I'm thinking, all right, great. This kid has had that. And then looking around, and all the other kids were basically like, yeah, we had an AP. And I'm like, holy shit.
Right.
Like I'm one semester, not even, a month into college, I realized like, this is not going to be the same anymore.
And you felt way behind at that
Oh,
point.
I wouldn't feel. I was.
Yeah.
I felt and was. And then it didn't take me long carrying the same study habits as my roommates and dorm mates and stuff. And then to go, okay, that's not going to work either. Because not only was I actually just legitimately behind, but I did not have the memory, the horsepower, however you want to think it, to just keep those same practices. So thank God I was terrified of, I mean, basically going to college, I was really the first one in my family to do that. And one of the first people in my whole area. Like people from where I grew up didn't go to play college sports, and they didn't go to academic colleges. I think we had maybe 3 people from my high school go to a 4-year college. So I had this like burden of opportunity going like, dude,
Wow.
you can't, first of all, financially, you can't afford to blow this like at all.
Right.
Like the debt you took on. And then secondarily, I'm like, dude, you can't do this. And so it was very quick to me to be like, all right, you got to do this over here to get through this path. And it was the best thing because it gave me a very specific enemy. Right? I knew who I was fighting. I got to be the guy going, I don't have anything like you guys. Right. I'm beating all of your asses.
Right.
So I had
competitive
thing.
Thing.
Huge. Right.
Wow.
I'm like, fuck all y'all. Basically, right? Like,
you have no idea.
I'm the
who
dumb
I
country
am.
kid, and I'm going to smash all of you by the end.
That's amazing. So you almost took all of your athletic
100%.
intention and where you're from and the hardworking community and person that you are. You just drove that into
100%, and like hasn't left at all for the most part.
I love that. I totally unexpected part of that. That's a beautiful thing, right? It's like it just plays to our world right now. We have no idea who people are. We think we do, right? We think we do, and we think we're being told what that is, but unless you sit, I don't care who they are, I don't care what it is. Like unless you sit with people, you don't understand where they're coming from. But the fuel, now I understand the fuel. Now I look at your CV and it's a completely different vantage point because it actually rings close. We have a very similar, like it's a strange similarity. Like I got hurt. I don't know. Did you get hurt?
I did.
You did?
Yeah, my freshman year.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was able to play all 4 years, but seriously and significantly hampered.
What was the injury?
Knee injury.
Oh shit.
So I had a guy fall into my leg probably a month into my first season. And I've had, I don't know, 5 or 6 surgeries on that knee. And it's still not even close to normal. So it was never returned at all. It literally took me until probably a year and a half after I'd finally graduated to where I finally felt like, okay, I can move normally again. It still had pain.
And you played for 4 years like that?
Yeah, I played 4 years for sure. It was playable. It just wasn't.
Yeah. What was your position?
I played safety.
Oh, yeah.
So I was able to manage, but...
Missile on the field.
Yeah, it was the best. Just destruction at all times. I loved it. I love football so much to this day.
I do too.
Yeah.
I don't watch it much, but I was a fullback, the smallest fullback. But I too I beat out this guy who transferred from the University of Minnesota. I remember when he showed up my sophomore year because it was a senior. So I was behind a senior the first year, and then a whole bunch of other recruits came in. This dude was a quintessential the dictionary version of a fullback.
Yeah,
he was 5'10", moving mountains in the gym. Was maybe 240, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm so screwed." But then on the field, I had to have a switch.
Yeah,
and I loved, and you know this, being around. I loved hitting people.
Yeah.
right? I didn't want to hurt anybody, but I loved the
different.
contact. So I would like, they're not going to beat me.
Yep.
And so that same kind of, anyway, so sophomore year, injured, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
Then I went into physiology, nutrition, all that stuff. But in doing that, I also got an assistant strength coach position for now I moved to a different university. So I worked with the strength coach there. And it was like, so this whole, early days of Olympic lifting and form and just like, how does that translate and functional training? It wasn't even a term at the time, but it was wildly just opens up the world. And of course I went down the nutrition route, but small town, like.
But honestly, like the similarities keep going because past that, basically the same thing. I kept playing in college and you didn't. Fine. But as soon as I graduated, I did some other things, but very quickly I ended up in Arizona at a facility called Athletes Performance. At the time, it was the first and only place that had physical therapy, chiropractic, nutrition, strength training in one building.
Amazing.
And so they attracted athletes. They would come there, spend your off season with us. Everything is right here, and then you can go back. It was brilliant, and it's now turned into what's called Exos,
right?
Which is,
so that was before its time.
Way before its time. It was brilliant. I got down there, and I spent 5 or 6 months on the floor. I was a strength coach for NFL guys, NBA guys, Division I, like just huge, very legitimate athletes. And it was that experience, probably much like yours. I'm just guessing, but I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. I love training. I love these things, but I can't be a full-time strength coach.
Right.
I learned very quickly that was not going to my thing. And that's actually, you turned to nutrition. I just turned back to science, which is to say, I just want to get more science.
Right.
I didn't know what it was going to be. I actually, at that time, if you gave me $1 million to tell you the difference between a PhD and a master's degree, I had no idea.
Right.
I didn't know what those things were. We didn't have those programs in my undergraduate, and again, in my lifestyle, I didn't know what these things were. I had no idea you could be a scientist in the human body. You're either a doctor,
right,
or like an obesity, public health. No offense, but I'm not interested in these at all.
Right.
And there were not master's degrees in human performance. There were not PhDs in sports science. That was not a field. So I had to kind of weave my way through it. But the point being, it was in a little bit of experience in the full-time weight room and going, okay, cool, I love these things, but this is not my end game.
Yeah.
I want to go more into science. And that's really what took me there. So it launched that part. And then from there, I was able to go, okay, look, I feel really comfortable with the strength training side. It was very natural for me. I got those concepts really quickly. But I didn't feel like I was really strong with physiology and biochemistry and that side of the equation. And I didn't see anybody that had them both. So I looked around the field and I was like, there's a lot of people that had part A, a lot of people that had part B. I feel really good with part A. What if I just go spend my graduate career focused in the deep side of physiology? Not because I want to do that, but then when I come out, I have these...
Not because I want to do that.
I didn't want to do it full time, right?
Right.
Just like I didn't want to be a full-time strength coach.
Right. You almost didn't even know what is it correct to say you had a hint at what you wanted to kind of pull together, but you kind of didn't know?
I think that's like a hint, maybe.
Yeah.
It was me looking, honestly, going, how do I get my way through this whole field? How do I get a career?
Right.
Well, I'm not going to be a career as a strength coach. That's out. When I looked at what the quote unquote scientists were doing, I was like, well, I'm not fighting that ladder.
Right.
I'll never get there. I don't have those skills, and I don't like that work.
Right.
I actually didn't want to be a scientist at all. But I was like, if I can go and get a PhD in those fields when I come out, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to have a PhD in muscle physiology. I'll have background in strength and conditioning, and I don't know anybody that has that. I'm going to be valuable. I don't know how or where or what I'm going to do.
I'm just creating value,
right? Like, it's the old cliche of, it's not necessarily when you have a skill set or two skill sets. It's when you have two skill sets in non-normally combined skills.
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, like I know AI programming and I also have a background in automotive engineering. Oh shit, like,
right.
Now you just got valuable,
right,
or whatever the case is.
Right.
And when I finished my PhD, as I was finishing up, my friend who's now been on to worked at Natick and the military stuff a lot. He was at Cal State Fullerton, and he's like, yo, I'm leaving to go back to work for the Army, research. Or, he went to Nike, actually. And he's like, we have a position for faculty in strength and conditioning, but we want a person that has a molecular background. And they're like, dude, we don't know anybody else in the field besides you. And I'm like, so I had no competition. I literally had none.
You didn't even know you were creating a professor position 100%. For yourself. Wow.
So I interviewed here. It was just like, that was it.
Since there's no one else.
No, since there's nobody else, I guess we'll take you.
It has this unique combination.
Yeah. So I landed on, and honestly at the time, when I even got here, I was like, I'm not going to do a single study. I didn't want to do any research. It was not interesting. It wasn't until I opened up my labs and I realized, like you can do this the way you want to do this. And you can make your career however you want to make it. That's when my life got very exciting.
Now you got some mold.
And now I had the ability to run and function because my academic pedigree and my background was very much not that.
Right.
It was like, this is how science works. This is what you do. And I was just like, fuck, shoot me in the head. Like, I don't want any of that. I don't want to do it that way at all.
Right.
So
you created a foundation so that now you have some levers to kind of find out things that you're curious about.
100%. Like I've had my colleagues and friends ask me for so long, like, how the fuck did you pull this off? And I'm like, well, when I came in day one, you write this thing at your first year in academics. That's basically, what are you going to do? How are you going to get tenure? And I wrote, and you write this to the dean, and then it's like you sign off on it, and then this is how you're kind of graded your entire career. It's like you said A and B and C were going to happen. We agreed. Those are the terms. It's your contract. And so I wrote in there 1-to-1, which was I'm going to put equal amount of efforts into research as I am public communication. And no one was doing that at the time. Right? This is a long time ago. And I was like, this is how I want to make my way in the field. I'm not going to be the most published researcher. I'm not going to also just be a teacher. I'm going to put 1-to-1, equal efforts into these things. And so I started doing that a long time ago. And then people are like, how'd you get away with doing all these podcasts? And so I'm like, how'd I get away with it? That was my contract.
There was a plan.
That was the plan the whole time.
Right.
Like you set a different plan with your people.
Well, it's interesting because you set the plan academically. That's the difference. And that's almost like, I don't know what Andrew Huberman's origin story is. I know that but I've never, heard him say that was the plan.
It wasn't.
Right? So it's you're kind of the first person that I've heard kind of have that plan, which goes back to why, again, when you find out more of the story, why you also are saying your CV and what you're talking about and how you want to inspire people through your unique skill sets. And you want to educate. And the only way to do that, we talked a little bit about down to earth and how I had to back up a little bit and like the intensity of information. It's always like, now with your other skill set, your imaginary side of it, okay, how can I describe and explain something that's so complex physiologically so that a layperson can actually take something away, be potentially inspired, and maybe apply it to their life so that their life can be better. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, I said a second ago, I've had a lot of my friends and colleagues ask me out. Andrew's one of them.
Yeah.
So I've known Andrew before he ever had social media.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys calling me going, how do you do this?
Yeah.
He called me and was like, hey, I'm thinking about going public. He didn't have anything like this, right?
I met him originally up at Ground Zero at Laird and Cavi's place.
Right. So we've done some grants together way back in the day on some projects with NASA projects and stuff. And he was like, how do I do this and not get fired? And this is literally what he asked me. Right. And so I told him and he's like, how do you do this and manage your time? Like he asked me all these things. And fundamentally the short version of it, I was like, dude, do what you're passionate about and don't worry about anything else.
Right.
Don't worry about what people are telling you in terms of, your episodes have to look like this. This is way before he was even going to do a podcast. He was just considering having social media.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is how I treat it. This is my relationship with social media. Wham. And he was like, great. And he talked to other people. And then Lex was really like, dude, you got to have your own show.
Right.
And then he's like, if I'm going to do this, how? And I told him my thoughts. And he took the whole thing and made it himself.
Right.
But that's one of the fundamental things I told him. I was like, dude, you just have to do what you want to do and don't worry about anything else.
I think that's the best
And it turns
advice.
out it worked okay.
Yeah, it turns out it's working out okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's the best advice for life,
Yeah.
right? It's like you gotta like, man, the time. I mean, God damn, the time is so precious. Literally anything could happen.
Yeah.
So like, how are we spending our time? How are we contributing to our society? So just to nerd out a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, we probably wasted a lot of time.
No, it's a beautiful story. I got a lot of it. Hopefully a lot of people did too, because it's like you can, and also people don't realize the work that goes into stuff.
Yeah.
It's so flippant, and people.
Science is really hard.
Oh my God,
It's really hard.
It's painful. I think about class and my head hurts.
I would say, on average, for any study you read, you can probably think 6 to 7 years of work went into that.
Right.
Like is a pretty normal. Sometimes many more. I know a project I'm just finishing writing right now where it's probably year 10.
Wow.
Since the very, very beginning. Sometimes it's shorter, a year or two, but
Do you want to hint at what it is?
yeah, we actually looked at. So one of the things I was very interested in was intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of research in it, and I generally I don't work with the disease end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So I don't do disease treatment, management, prevention. Mm-hmm. I'm not a medical doctor.
Right.
What I look at is the other side, performance enhancement, right? And I want to be really clear, I'm not talking about sports. Right. That tends to get translated, I'm not a competitive athlete. No, I don't care.
Right.
Like, you have a body, you're an athlete.
Right.
Period. You all want to look your best, whatever look means to you.
Right. You want to function and run up the stairs and pick up your grandkids.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You want to be focused today. You want to not have gas and diarrhea. Like it's all the same thing, right? You want to perform at your best. Amazing. And so when I looked at intermittent fasting, very specifically, this was 16-8, a pretty common strategy. It was like, great. I felt like we understand the answer here.
So what he meant was 16-8, 16 hours without taking in anything, 8 hours eating window.
Yeah, this is commonly, you can do this a lot of ways, but a very common one is you skip breakfast or you just don't eat in the morning. Right. You start eating at noon-ish, finish by 8 p.m.-ish, and go about your day. Yeah. You can do it differently, but as a rough idea. I felt like the answer was pretty clear there in what most of people were researching. So in terms of it's not going to be magical. It's not going to be super effective or ineffective for fat loss. Mm-hmm. It's also not harmful. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of to me, it was like, all right, here's an option here. You can use or not use, but there's nothing special. You don't have to do it. It's also not this big, like, breakfast is magical. If you skip breakfast, you'll, okay. Right. Fine. But what I was more interested in is what about people trying to actually gain as much muscle as possible?
Specifically.
Very specifically.
Yeah. Because
all the studies and the research had been done on intermittent fasting from the perspective of dieting.
Right.
You're trying to cut calories and lose weight. Very important. Mm-hmm. I don't oftentimes deal with that. More often than that, I deal with either other goals. Not necessarily always growing muscle, but I'm trying to, again, perform my best. I'm trying to get my headaches to go away. I'm trying to get like 1,000 other things that we're trying to solve with people. It's not like fat loss is just a very small portion of what I coach personally. And so we said, what if someone does 16-8, but they're actually in caloric surplus and they're strength training?
So they're jamming in a lot of calories.
Yeah.
In that 8
and
hours.
So the other thing about it was I don't like when science becomes siloed.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the study outcome? Who gained the most muscle? Okay, great. But did it harm somebody's sleep?
Right.
Did they have more brain fog? What was their digestion?
Right.
Those factors go into something like your diet, right? And when real people make real nutrition decisions, it's rarely because of one variable. Right. And so we want to look at that and to see, did it help you grow more muscle? Did it harm muscle growth? Did it not matter? Did anything else of importance do that? And so we've just finished that study up and we're just now writing it up. It's not even in review yet. And so we did that. We looked at muscle growth and performance, and we went into sleep stuff, and we went into digestion things, and we tried to, instead of saying, yes, it worked or it doesn't work, what the paper is going to say is, okay, it did A and B for this variable, it did B and C for this variable, and I'll give you a spoiler, it's not like everything got better, everything got worse. It is, hey, you're going to have to kind of pick your poison. This is how physiology nutrition work. Right. If it optimizes for A, B, and C, it might actually be detrimental for DNF.
Right.
And now you choose what your biggest concern or focus is, which is why it's so hard for people to make so many comments about nutrition as a whole, about things being great or bad or good.
Panacea,
like you have to, the panacea is just, it just doesn't work for human performance. So
yeah, and I feel like human performance sometimes slams in the face of longevity too. It's like okay, well, you know, and now what was that latest study, the American study look at types of protein, animal, plant.
Yep.
What was that nurses cohort perspective study?
I don't know that one. I know Stu's new paper, and a handful of other ones, but nonetheless.
Yeah, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, Dietary Protein in Midlife in Relation to Healthy Aging, Perspective Nurses Health Study Cohort. So there's more and more, like, you know, because it's you know, and so much of it, everything gets put into these boxes of categories. It's proteins, carbs, fats, but they don't often the quality of them.
Sure.
Or like, and all of those things matter so much. All the details matter so much. And also, like, if you're going after a study, you have to reduce it down so that you can get variables. So to have big populations of it's very complicated.
You have to. I think my one big piece of advice for this on people trying to navigate their way to being scientifically conscious is you have to remember that key point. Any individual paper can only answer one very small question, and there are pros and cons that are never going to be perfectly avoided. If you were to go all the way down to we'll just say right end of the spectrum in science, and this is a study done in a petri dish, where we can literally control the entire environment. We know the exact dosage.
Right.
Okay, great. That is the most control possible. However, it has the least amount of what's called external validity. Right.
That's the irony.
Cool.
Like that's the challenge.
This is our juxtaposition, right?
Yeah.
You go to the other end of the spectrum, you say, okay, great. Well, I want a study done in 1 million people and
over 100 years.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, we can have that. It's called epidemiology.
Right.
But now you have 1 billion of those variables that were not accounted for.
Literally, almost.
Definitely literally.
Yeah.
Like very much literally. Not even accounted for, some loosely accounted for with a questionnaire or a member
Right.
But how you can't, why are you bitching? Like, what do you want somebody to do?
Right.
You're here, or we're playing a game somewhere along the way. It's not to say that the science is flawed. I hate it when people say that's a bad study design. No, it wasn't.
Right.
Very rarely is it a bad study design.
Right.
It just was answering a question you don't like.
Right. Didn't fit.
It fit probably perfectly what the scientist was trying to answer.
Yeah.
It didn't, fit the one you were trying to answer, but that wasn't what they were trying to do.
Therein lies the problem in general. If people have an idea of something and they're not open to change, they're going to crucify anything that doesn't line. That's a whole.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's not a study I couldn't pull up where I couldn't
rip it apart in some way.
Yeah, including every one of mine.
So, yeah.
Every one of mine.
Yeah, from a certain perspective, if I'm looking from this perspective, let's say I'm looking from strictly blue zones, longevity, whatever it is, and if I look like, well, but you're coming from your performance space, and like there's too many factors. So, like zeroing in on this is kind of a general question, but interesting, I think, from your background, human physiology. You can answer it as general or as specific as you want. What from that physiological place, from what you understand, what is a person super life look like? What are some things that you feel one would do that most people will benefit from?
Actually, so I'm going to answer this in my own particular way.
I'd prefer.
I'm going to lay my own framework for this. One of the reasons why I have asked the question scientifically that I have, and that I read the studies that I do and pay attention, is because while we'll spend a lot of time working with sure, high performers right now. And this is people that are winning world championships in the biggest sports, the most famous musicians you've ever heard of. Like, okay, great. Yes. And these people need solutions now. So I actively coach these personally. At the same time, what is always in my mind as a scientist is I'm super obsessed with trying to figure out what is the default physiology state. What is the core, what are the fundamental core truths? I love the scientific construct of first principles. It's the foundation of almost everything I do. So if we were to reduce this all the way to the bottom, what's true among all of us or most of us? And then we'll see deviations along the way, of course, but we don't even agree with what that foundation is, right? Let me take an easy example.
Certainly X and Y's were not even...
Oh, fuck.
We won't open that up. But just, I couldn't help
I can actually tell you that was a large part of my comprehensive exams in my dissertation. Probably a multiple hour conversation with all the folks on my committee to decide whether or not I get to even be a doctoral student was that specific case. So nonetheless, I have analyzed blood of thousands of high performers. Great. And so we are into this. We obviously have a blood work company. So conflict of interest aside there, you can use that for which you will. But when I do that, I'm far more interested in going, what is this information telling me about, I don't like to say this, it's maligned, but root cause, right? I don't care that if your vitamin D is low, I'm fine, take a vitamin D supplement. But way more interesting is going, okay, why? Interesting. Now, what have you done in the past? Oh, you've taken vitamin D before. Tell me more. I can start getting clues now, and I can start learning about what your physiology is doing and why. The very cheap, I think, I'll just say it this way, I think the poor way to approach that is to go vitamin D is low, take vitamin D. Right. Okay, this is one of the markers, and I picked vitamin D intentionally. It's reduced.
Yeah.
That one I'm okay with, honestly. Vitamin D, there's so much data on its safety.
That one's
But that's the easy one.
That one's the easy one. Yeah.
Even that, I can play a little game here. I'm intentionally playing a game here.
Yeah.
Don't overreact. But there are data. It's not a lot of strong data.
Yeah.
We're playing a mental game here, okay? I don't like to overplay this point. But there are data suggesting that vitamin D will actually remain low in the presence of heavy metals. Think about what's vitamin D. It is a storage mechanism, right? So if you are, let's say your vitamin D comes back at 25, low. Like we generally like to see people 45 plus. 25 is not screamingly low, right? It's not clinically low, and it's low. Really common though, even for people up here. Like you see 25, 30 is a pretty normal number. If you look at data on NBA players, and we've seen this in all the NBA players, it's typically very low. Really commonly. You're indoors all day.
Right.
Your sport, your profession, you're indoors. Baseball players, we don't see this problem as much. NFL guys, it's kind of a mixed bag, to be honest. Our golfers are still often low, to be funny, but they're less bad. So nonetheless, I could go on and on. Okay. So if you are in the presence of, and there's a handful of things that have to happen. You have to have a little bit of micronutrient, not clinical insufficiencies or deficiencies, but subclinical, slightly low micronutrient, in the presence of a handful of like cadmium and other heavy metals. Since vitamin D is trying to help you augment and store micronutrients, if it is trying to rid you of those stored chemicals, the toxins in particular, it's going to artificially keep it low so that you're not continuing to store. So now you're smashing down 5,000 IUs of vitamin D for 3 months, and then you come back and your blood work is not changed.
Wow.
Here's one of the two things happened. Number one, you actually didn't get vitamin D from a high quality source.
Which is definitely possible.
Definitely possible. There's tons of data. Pick a random supplement off the shelf, vitamin D specifically, you can see a 10-fold difference between the label and the actual active ingredient, if not 100-fold. Melatonin is worse. There's 1,000-fold difference. Don't play with melatonin. It's non-secondary point.
I concur on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you potentially didn't get an active form of vitamin D, didn't take consistently, or in reality, that's probably the most realistic option. What happened? Very small likelihood, though, is something like this is going on. Your body is down-regulating unintentionally. And I know this actually is real because we've done this many times with people where we've taken them off of vitamin D supplementation, cleared other aspects of physiology, and then vitamin D endogenous concentrations go way up. So we can solve this problem the better way if we really understand, again, just picking blood work as an example. There are so many clues and direct signals, and I don't mean clues, I mean flags screaming to somebody that are not medical flags. Right? You're not in a level of, if you're working with a teledoc, that they're going to go, okay, I mean, that's great. Like, telemedicine's fantastic. I've used it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you're using an example of trying to get blood work done as a way just so that you can get growth hormone quickly, like, I'm not opposed to it at all. Like, you be you, like, great, fine. But if you're trying to actually get something out of it, there are many things that we can see if you understand how to analyze and interpret those things that are beyond just this number's low, you want it to go up, or this number's high, you want it to come down.
Right.
So on the surface, that is one small example of my overall philosophical approach going, okay, if that's the case, let's go one layer lower. Why is vitamin D low in so many people? Well, maybe we're not actually measuring it correctly. That's my first assumption. Before we get into environmental toxins and, okay, also still very clearly true, but I don't even need to get there.
Right.
In fact, there's a great paper that came out a handful of years ago that suggests that, in fact, is going on. Vitamin D levels are not appropriately being measured in traditional clinical labs.
Wow.
So we're not getting the right information. So when I think about, okay, is vitamin D being low because of things like environmental toxins? Well, I don't have to stretch my imagination very far to think, okay, that's probably very realistic. I don't have to look at any papers. I can simply look outside and go, yeah, I can see a beach there, and I can see 400 car. Yep, okay, this is a realistic possibility.
Yeah, there's pollution everywhere.
I don't need to think about anything else. I haven't even watched your show yet. I don't have to do it. So intuitively, that seems like a realistic possibility. Is it real or not? Don't know. Then my first thought, though, would be like, wait, are we even measuring this appropriately? I don't have to get down to genetic polymorphisms yet. That is 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th, like that is 200th level under, what is more directly staring us in the face? Why is it low? Let's assume the technology problem is not an issue. Let's assume we're measuring it correctly. I'm more interested in going, all right, if it's low in 84% of people, I just made that number up, right? There has to be something ubiquitous. It's not going to be our diet because it's too varied across the world. It won't be that. Could it be contributing? Of course. Also, it's probably not going to be one thing. There's not a marker in physiology that is so, again, robust that's going to have one thing that's doing it.
Right.
It's not going to be our stress level. Okay, so can we go all the way down to the bottom and figure out, well, what was different back then when it was normal? Well, what's normal? When was normal? So you get the point. We can go on endlessly.
Right, endless.
But my answer to your original question was that, like, can we go all the way to the bottom and figure out what are the things that we know that do pass the, and I can actually answer it. Like, I can come back to it. If you have any follow-ups on the vitamin D thing, we can, but that is where I spend my time, and I have a reasonable sense of what I think is like, okay, what is most likely to be a core truth amongst our entire species?
Right.
And that is where I start from.
Well, I love that. And yeah, I mean, we could nerd out on vitamin D for the rest of the time for sure, but that muse is so important to understand because the individuality of even time and space of where you are. We didn't even talk about longitudinally. And what
for
time
sure.
of the year you like. What
Totally.
do you have naked skin or are you putting stuff on it? Like all of that stuff, right? And what is, I love what is in your body presently. For
sure.
Like I just interviewed an old scientist, PhD scientist from 3M, talking about PFAS, right? Guess what she found in the 90s? 99% of the population has PFAS in it. We don't even know what the hell that's derailing.
Right.
Aside from carcinogenicity, cholesterol, diabetes, connected, all this shit that is like, holy cow.
You want me to do one that'll really fire some people up? The testosterone thing kills me right now.
Oh, dude.
Okay, here's why. I refuse to believe that our species is so weak that we could reduce our endogenous testosterone concentrations by half in a couple of decades. That makes no sense to me. That does not pass the smell test. What passes the smell test, we are doing a lot of things differently lifestyle-wise.
Yeah.
And most of them we know now are associated with probably not going to be here for very long if we keep this up.
Right.
There's no question we're living a generally worse lifestyle than before. But in half? In a few decades? Because of microplastics?
Well,
I don't know. That's hard.
But there's 60 to 80,000 untested chemicals in our environment.
See, this is where it gets fun, right? Because the way that first principles works is you're testing every assumption.
Right.
And assumption one is we have all complete data set.
Right.
And how, like, friends, we don't have to go down the wrong topic here, but like, have we learned our lesson about conclusions and policies based on incomplete data sets yet? It is clear we're missing parts of the equation. So when things like this pop up, my first instinct is, wait, there has to be something that we are totally not even considering. There's something going on here. All the things, stress, sleep, yep. They're all adding onto it. Obesity,
They're all adding, yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
And there's probably some sledgehammer that we haven't even thought to look up like that, like something else. Like, I mean, who knows what that thing could be that we think is ridiculous now until it's not ridiculous anymore. But we don't know.
Well, dude, even the data, and I got you my book there, but even the data around electromagnetic fields that we've been blasting ourselves with. I mean, I ran into Andrew when he was getting into it before he was talking about it. He goes, I'm never putting my phone in my pocket when it's on it ever again.
Yeah.
Because the data is like way too compelling to go like, it's connected to lower testosterone, possible motility issues.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need it in my pocket that bad.
Yeah.
Next to my nuts. So, but to your point, I think you make a very strong point. And I tried even in the book, I kind of left it as a question.
For sure.
Because I'm like, this doesn't sound good, right? Yeah. Regardless of what it is, we're just throwing this shit at us.
Totally.
And it's polluting us and the world and like.
Well, I mean, okay, so again, let's.
If we wait for all of the data sets, we'll be dead. Probably.
You can look. I have a thing I've taught for a long time called the video actually is up on YouTube. I think it's called the Bulletproof Bullshit Detector, which is obviously
great
hubris on itself.
Yeah.
But the point of it is there are levels of data that one can have, right? Where you determine action, I determine action, or somebody else determine actions is different. That is fine. In fact, I think the world works better if we can acknowledge that. Where we have problems are when you and I speak as if truth exists, when we have different lines of evidence that we consider to be sufficient.
Right.
So if you see a line of evidence that suggests, hey, living in Malibu extends your lifestyle by 20%, like you're probably going to jump at it. I am so, like, it's comical how bad I am biased for strength training.
Right.
If I see any science at all that even slightly resembles positive effect of strength training, like I'm tweeting that shit, like it's out there, I don't need to see any supporting evidence, right? I'm way over here. I see like a smidgen of evidence. I'm like, it's true.
It's gotta be.
Something else on the other end, like Bluetooth compromising my brain health. Like, I need to see a lot of evidence before I even pay attention, right?
Right.
Okay, fine.
Right.
It's not a right or wrong. It is, this is where I stand.
That's where you're coming from.
That's where I come from, right? And I try to be really clear in my stuff when I'm communicating of like where I'm at on that line. Your book, the same thing, right? It's just like, this is where I think. Then it's fine for you to go personally. That's enough evidence for me to take action.
Right.
And then someone else can go personally. We can debate the science, fine, whatever. But personally, that's not enough. Okay, there's no, you're not going to fight with that person. You're never going to hate that person.
Yeah.
What you're going to hate is someone going, that's BS. He's a fraudster.
Yeah.
Like, well, hold on. Wait, I made the data up.
Right.
Or
I gathered a bunch of it.
Or am I misinterpreting it? Okay, those are legitimate things, but you taking your position of action is not it's not BS.
Right.
That is simply you saying this is actionable.
Right.
I'm very conservative in many areas of my life, particularly with micronutrients and things like that for supplementation. I think those fields, biohacking fields in general, anything in those areas, I'm very skeptical of.
Yeah.
My movement for action is way, way longer. I'm like, I think you're way off the
They've
point.
gone off the reservation a bit.
Way.
Yeah.
Right? Other areas of my life, though, with exercise, again, I just need a smidgens of evidence, and I'm like, that's the solution for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay, so back to the physiology point.
okay, so let me give
core,
you yeah. All right, so thank you for bringing me back. The at the fundamental, right? And there's evidence here. I'm pulling this from brain aging studies, muscle performance, longevity stuff, psychology, mental health, and kind of combine this stuff together. It seems very clear when you stack that on top of teleology and on top of any sort of genome-based research, when it starts landing in all those categories, you start going, okay,
there's something here.
There's potentially something here. And then if you strip it back to just your intuition, like, does this intuit?
Right.
All right. Things like community. How could you argue that?
Right.
Seems to make, call it evolutionary sense or teleological sense. It makes historical sense. It makes ancestral sense, and it makes current events. Then you look at the molecular research on it. You can look at brain scanning. You can look at, pick your line of evidence.
Mood.
It's all
tribal, 150 person. Once it breaks down, don't live in a city.
Right. Yeah. So to me, that's one of the fundamental pillars, right? Now, what does community mean? That's different for everybody.
Right.
I'm very introverted. Living out in the middle of the woods, many acres from anyone else is my ideal situation, right? Like, that's
a lot for me just to be here.
Yeah.
Both of us probably.
That's why we had
this close.
That's why I had to schedule this like this. I'm like, dude, I can't. Like, I'm out. My days in California are over.
Right.
So, like, I'm out in there. Other folks, it's the opposite. That doesn't matter. But do you have some sort of sense of community, some sense of purpose, some sense of being? Yeah. There's research on retirement. Right. So folks that retire tend to age really quickly and die sooner. Many reasons explaining that, but one of them is things like this. So what is your community? And that could be in many forms and fashions for many different people. Seems to be a pretty core pillar, though. Again, the point of a pillar is not the direct definition, but it's to say, like, is there some central truth here with most people? Not everyone. I know people who've lived in Alaska by themselves for their lives have been fine.
And they're weird.
And they're generally fairly weird. Right.
Okay.
But there's some sense of community or
100%.
Purpose or belonging, however that is defined. Okay. There seems to be some sense of just what we would batch into these don't haves. So the community is a have, right? You need to have a community. And there are things that you just don't want, right? You don't want obesity. You don't want overconsumption of processed foods. You don't want, and the list goes on, right? You don't want to be drinking plastics. You don't want environmental toxin exposures. Tons and tons and tons. So you have to avoid those things as much as you can. In addition, there seems to be a colloquial exercise, physical activity, human movement pillar there. Yeah. You just don't see groups of people doing really well for a long time who have no physical activity practice.
It just doesn't work.
Doesn't work, right? Could be farming all day, could be structured exercise, could have been any number of things, right? Okay, so you got there. There seems to be some sort of connection between fundamental low ingredient food, could be high carbohydrate, totally fine. Could be low carbohydrate, could come in lots of forms or fashion. There doesn't seem to be any sort of has to be this food, can't be this food. Those don't work. Those arguments are too easy to break. In fact, you get about 1 or 2 levels up before you start smashing them entirely. But food is in there. We don't live without food, and we don't live very long with too much of it either. Right? So there's some sort of calorie control at some portion of it, and there is whatever the nutrients are going to be. Some people have had a lot of variety of food intake. I think that's generally better for most people. But people have survived very well on low variety in times as well. Have they thrived? I don't know. I think it's easier to make an argument that high food variety is generally on aggregate better. But you can survive in those things. So after that, the list gets pretty short. Right? So really we're talking about, do you have some sort of sense of connection, purpose. By the way, that doesn't have to be with other humans, right? So that sense of connection could be to you and the animals you're raising,
Right.
your patch of pasture that you're on, your ocean that you're tending. Like,
Right.
you still have a purpose. What's the Castaway?
Oh, yeah.
You know exactly what I mean when I say that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what
Wilson.
was the thing that made him have a final connection mentally?
Wilson. Yeah.
Right? You're going to create it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a human or not.
Yeah.
You're going to
you
create
have to go
some sort of...
schizophrenic, you go schizophrenic.
You
For
go
a pe-
schizophrenic,
For a
right.
period of time. You
But
do.
look at people out in the wilderness. They're
Yeah.
going to have tremendous connection to the animals, even the ones that they're harvesting.
Big time.
Right? If you're really out there, you're just getting the same thing. It's the same sense of, I'm not here by myself.
Totally.
So now I'm talking to my plant and
Yeah.
whatever else thing. So those are it. High quality movement stuff, quality nutrients one way or the other. And then after that, we're getting into like, okay, this worked well in Southeast Asia and this worked well in this. And now you're getting a little bit different answers based on,
Right.
okay, this worked well then, and then in different eras and combination of people. So that is fundamentally where it all comes down to. And you can wrap that up by saying, all right, can you then live really well right now without any of those? And I think the answer is still no. You can stay alive because medicine is good enough,
Right.
but can you thrive?
Not a chance.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Let's jump to, just because people always have these questions, let's talk about strength training, the thing that we both love.
Yeah.
You know, physiologically, we want to keep our muscle.
Yeah.
Like we want it. It's just functionally just the best. Obviously, we want to keep it, but there's many different ways to get there. And I've played with, it's kind of like, I don't know, in my rude way of saying it, there's like two paths. Go heavy, take some breaks in between sets, and do core movements and or do a volume.
Yep.
And there's all these things. Where do you sit with that? And I'm really, obviously we're not talking athletes, we're talking to people that are, but to your point, we're all athletes.
Yep.
Right? We all actually want to be athletes. Like, it's in there. You always want to, like, for me, I'm like, I'm literally out in the woods, and like trees go down.
Yep.
Like I get stuck.
Yep.
Like I got to go back and get the chainsaw and fucking lift shit, and rocks fall, and like there's shit that I don't ever want to stop
Yep.
being functional enough to do shit.
Yep.
Right? And to be able to just go, if I want to hike for 2 hours, I'm going to hike for 2 hours. I want to lift some boulders,
Yep.
or sprint with my dogs. I want to do that. So from a functional, high functioning place for the general population, but this isn't necessarily general. These people listening to this, watching this, are like, hey man, I'm taking my health on. Where do you sit in terms of what's the best preservation and activation of lean tissue?
You don't have to pick, is my starting answer.
That's a great answer.
You don't have to. So if you like and you're more comfortable and are finding more success with heavier, less frequent, great. If you're the opposite, that's fine too. The best thing one can do for skeletal muscle is to not take big times, and by that I mean weeks and months off of training.
Right.
So rule number one, do not get hurt.
Right.
Do not get seriously hurt.
Right.
My hamstrings and adductors are about an 8 out of 10 sore right now. So sore is fine. It wasn't intentional. It was a bit of an accident.
You just did something.
Yeah. Just the same mistake I've made 400,000 times. Feeling pretty good. Yeah. No, the data suggests otherwise, but I think I'm okay.
This time. I'm okay.
Oh man. So last Saturday, this is embarrassing, but last Saturday I ran a 5K.
Oh.
So I coached Travis Barker, the drummer, right? And he put on this they had a show at SoFi Stadium, and Travis is a great runner. He runs every day. So he's like, let's do a 5K before the show, and then do a 5K and come back and do the show. I'm like, all right. So it's like a little charity event thing. So I was like, all right, I'll go run with you. And I don't know the last time I ran 3.1 miles or whatever that is, right? So I'm like, I'll be fine. I can do it. I just got done I was doing some outdoor stuff recently. I just got back from Cam Haines' place. So I ran up that damn mountain with that big rock and I did all the things. I'm like, I'll finish. I'll be fine. But man, I did not anticipate what running for that much time and that distance on concrete would do. My quads were so sore for like 5 days. And Travis is much older than me. And he beat me by, I don't know, probably 4 minutes or something. And I'm like, oh, damn it, this drummer just like beats me.
Crushed the
and smashes me.
physiologist.
And then he goes and plays a 90-minute show in front of 70,000 people. And the whole time I'm like sitting next to him, but basically like right off stage, sitting in a chair, just like massaging my quads while he's smashing a drum kit. And the next day runs 3 miles again. And I'm like, dude, I can't move. Like I was so sore.
Right.
So I knew that what were going to be the consequences of that. I knew that I was going to be very sore.
You weren't running distance at all.
No.
So you just...
And I don't do it on concrete.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
And I knew what that was going to do, but there's no part of my brain that was going to allow me to just go easy today.
Right.
Or don't do the run today.
Right. You were called out and you weren't
I was
going to say
100%. This is exactly like, nope, like zero. And my wife is just like, you don't, I'm like, just stop right there.
Or you're going to say no.
It doesn't matter.
No.
Like, what am I going to say here?
Right.
I don't care if the world, like nobody would have known if I didn't do it at all.
Right.
Besides Strat, no one would have known. And
Your
there's
client.
0% chance.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, I'm doing this, man. I will say there are other people whose names you would know who were supposed to run that race and did not show up. So I should be calling them out by name right now, but I'm not going to.
But you did do it.
But nonetheless, so I'm more sore in this current minute than I should be, and what that resulted in is me most definitely not training the last 3 or 4 days, like basically at all, which is not a good thing. So don't get yourself legitimately hurt, and don't get yourself honestly this sore. As a general rule, you do not want to be having to take 3, 4, 5, 6 days off because you got so sore.
Because it's always the mind. We know this. Because it's always the mind. You haven't been doing it, and you finally got yourself to do it. And in the moment, maybe you got a friend to do it with you, and maybe you joined after the friend has asked you for a year, and you're just fine.
Yep.
You're fine, and you don't realize. And literally now you can't move for a week.
Yep.
And that's so demoralizing, and it's so hard because it really does hurt.
Yep.
And you can't get consistent until you...
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the part earlier. We were talking before about habits and like establishing. That's the critical part.
Yeah.
You can't break your rhythm. People that are... it's very fast. A month goes by like that. Like, oh my God, yeah, I got sick this week, and then and then all of a sudden you're like, well, yeah, oh shit, it's been a month. I haven't worked on a month. Not really, but you know what I mean? Like that is really easy to fall into.
Easy, yeah.
And then my friend visited, and then I did this, and I just didn't have time, and work got busy, and okay. So you can avoid those breaks that are controllable. These situations are like a little bit different, right? So don't get hurt, number one, is my first piece of advice. Number two, the volume is a 10% jump. What I mean by that is try your best to never avoid your workout volume, whether you're swimming or running or hiking or lifting, whatever you're doing, Pilates, I don't care. Don't do more than 10% this week than you've done in the past. So when you're progressively overloading, when you're doing more, when you're picking it up a little bit, for example, if you don't work out and you go from 0 to 5 days of lifting, that's going to be bad.
Yeah.
It may not be a bad month or week 1, but I promise you for many people by week 5 to 8, that's when that knee tendonitis is going to start kicking in. That's when that neck thing is going to start hurting. Like, what the hell?
Stuff, yeah.
It's just like it didn't get you day 1, day 2, day 3. So you want to be really judicious and think carefully about, hey, look, it's been 12 years since I worked out consistently, or it has been since the kid, or what. I got time. So get into the habit. Just get the habit, get the routine. We'll worry about progress. We'll worry about getting stronger and intensity. And is your program right? I don't care. Honestly, the first 6 months to a year, I don't care what your program is.
Just get consistent.
Like, we have to get you some tissue tolerance, number one, and a consistent thing of a positive relationship between you and exercise. And now we'll start worrying about, I would love for you to start day 1 on a great program, which I can give you some rough guidelines. But honestly, with our clients, when they're in this spot, it's like, yo, our coaches know, like, do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Get them moving. Get them moving and get them back in the gym. And if they hate a particular gym, They hate a particular movement. They hate a particular style. They hate a particular... There's no time of day. There's no equipment you have to have. There's no protocol that you have to... None of those things are real. And I'm saying that because we have worked with 25-year-old world champions in probably a dozen sports. I have worked with 55-year-old executives that run $1 trillion, yearly things. We have worked with moms, like you name it, we've done it. We've worked with perimenopause and I've done it all. And that is true among all of them. That is really true. That is our first. Now, sometimes that stepping stone takes a day. Sometimes that stepping stone takes a year, but I don't care. That is always the foundation of where we're going to get going. So the question of like heavy or light, I do not even care for a while. Are you not getting hurt? Great. A little bit of sore. How sore? Scale of 1 to 10, 3, 4. I'm good with 4, 5. Okay, above 7, 8. Like we're gonna.
You're hurting yourself.
We're probably taking things away.
Yeah.
So we got to stop walking backward. Once you get past that, and we want to start getting into, which programs are a little bit more effective than others. Like, fine, we can have that conversation. For most people, they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I flip back and forth, actually. I started going heavier a little bit just to fuck around. Of course, I tore my pec. It's my third time I felt it, off a chicken bone. Not the full thing, but I felt the fiber.
Yep.
And I don't know if you felt the
strain,
pull like that.
No, I've rolled the calf for sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Like it's the weirdest.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest, not comfortable feeling. It goes.
Yeah.
You just feel the muscle popping, and it's a little more indented, but. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to go heavy.
Yeah.
Volume every once in a while. Now that I just kind of feel the weight there, but like, I kind of like. What do you think is kind of diminishing returns? I mean, at a certain point, like over 25 reps, is that kind of like if you're pushing it, or does it really matter?
No, I wouldn't even say any of those metrics are where I would fundamentally go to. I'll back up and I'll say, okay, you need to think about, number one, just how are you moving? I don't care about, for this kind of population, this answer, I do not care about any of the other variables. The joint should be moving how it's supposed to be moving.
Right.
If that means an isometric hold, great. If that is body weight, I get these questions a ton.
Right.
Body weight is totally fine.
I mean, a safe thing, just like a wall sit for your thighs.
Wall sit, for sure. I don't care.
Yeah,
like those are absolutely fine, right?
Yeah.
Starting places, great. There are limitations.
Yeah.
You're not going to get really strong with body weight.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be limited by the load you can put on. You're not going to get really strong with wall sits or isometric. Okay, fine. But for the first even several years, you could probably make a ton of progress there. So I want full range of motion in our joints, right? And I want that to be happening very consistently. Right? So each joint has a different range of motion. Each one of us has a different range of motion there. I don't want bad positions. I mean, a little bit of bad is okay. Like, we don't need to be these perfect, precious things where everything is lined up. And we don't want to be there at all.
Right.
This is where something like a movement-based practice does come in great. So if you want to call this yoga for you, if you want to call this whatever else, grappling, capoeira, jiu-jitsu, I don't care. Moving your joints is still full range of motion, right? This is what we're going to be after. If we're going to start adding external load or fatigue or a lot of volume, now we have to start paying attention to things like, what are we doing on the joint? But really getting your joints to move through a full range of motion and contracting in that range of motion. So this is a big difference between stretching. If I'm just sitting here and stretching my hamstrings, right? And I'm sitting there stretching, okay, fine. It's not doing any contraction there. That's going to be less effective on aggregate than if we're putting that thing through a full range of motion and having it contract with a little bit of fatigue. So I just want joints opened up. I want them going in all forms and fashions. After that, if we want to start exploring, okay, can you control, this is generally called the negative or the eccentric. Right? This is the you are resisting motion. Okay? We want to start doing that in the right position. So when you're lowering yourself in the squat, are you staying in the right positions?
Right.
No, we need to adjust your foot. We need to adjust the load. We need to not do this exercise, whatever the case may be. Are you doing the same thing? Can you lower yourself like from a pull-up, right? Can you lower a weight from a bent row or whatever we're going to do? And once we feel like you can actually do that, now is what we'll call own the position, right? Like this is Kelly Starrett circa 2010. Right? Can you really own the position? Which is, can you be there normally? Can you be there when we put a little fatigue on there? Can you be there when we add a little bit of extra load to it? I know I got a bit jargony there, but can you control the position in a bunch of different human variables? Like you got tired. You were carrying the groceries, if you want to use the cliche, right? And all of a sudden your shoulders had to roll so far forward that they're touching each other because you had your upper back got tired and we lost position. Okay, I don't want to be doing that all the time if that's my exercise load, right? Now, if we're past all those checkpoints though, and we still want to start adding concentric, great. You want to push things away from you? Fine. But we have so much work to do in those first layers. At the same time, the way I'll wrap this all out, I also don't want to make people think, I don't want to make the barrier to lifting weights high. I don't want you to think you have to have like all these things that I just said and everything has to be perfect and you have to, before you can ever go in the gym and just like push some machine around.
Again,
Move.
Yeah.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't be scared.
Right.
Like, unless you're making really big technique mistakes, and if you're on a machine, this is probably a pretty good place to start because they're almost always going to
lock you in
the right position, right?
Yeah.
So start there.
Yeah.
Go way lower than you think in terms of repetitions. Go way lighter than you think, and give it 6 weeks. And then if you're not coming back where that shoulder's not creeping up on you, okay, great. Now we can we can expand range of motion. So I know I'm a little bit of a paradox there, but I don't want to make it overly complicated.
Right.
It's just a human body.
Yeah.
Just
well, this is where it's like if you have a partner or you have someone around, it can kind of watch. Because intuitively, you can see when a shoulder is higher than the other one. You can see when a migrating elbow, like they're it's good to have someone kind of there, so you're not doing something completely stupid.
Totally,
you're watching each other.
Honestly, what I'll say too, I was telling you earlier, like, okay, I'm an exercise physiologist, right? This is what I sort of do, and I coach athletes. So when I personally go to a gym, like if I were to go work out over there, people are always like, "Oh my gosh." Like, are you intimidated or nervous because the world's going to see you and you're like, wow, this guy, wow, his physique isn't great. And he's not as strong. There's a thing like I have to be the strongest, fittest guy in the room. And my answer is always, tell me your friend who's the strongest, who's the most lean. I promise you I know somebody better.
Totally.
I promise you. So I do not care personally because I'm like a little bit less shittier than your friend who's shitty.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
Which is my point of saying nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares when you go to the gym.
Yeah.
If you walk into the gym for the first time and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing at all, you're going to feel like the whole world is looking at you.
Right.
And nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Like nobody cares because 80% of the people are you.
Yeah.
They're just 3 weeks ahead of you.
Yeah. And they're already insecure.
And it's like nobody cares anyways. And if they do, like, I don't care, even though I'm none of the things, like I don't look like Jason Momoa. Like I'm not, I don't have those things, right? I'm not a world record. I'm not a world champion in weightlifting or powerlifting either. No one cares. Second thing I'll say is if any facility you do go in has anybody working at the front desk or staff, it's literally their job to take people like you that do not know what you're doing and help you just get started. And so I know like that intimidation level is there. But really, if you just show up at the front desk and so, this is my first day, I don't know how to exercise at all. Yeah. They're going to be like, sweet. Like, I'll help.
Yeah.
It can be super easy that way. So I don't want that barrier to get started to be hard. That is the ultimate goal, is to get as many people and I'll finish this. I know I've been dominating the mic here for a second. If you look at the research on the benefits of exercise, whether it's cardiovascular exercise or strength training, the biggest benefits by a country mile are those going from 0 to the first 10%. The biggest change in your life from a health, short or long term, and performance perspective you will get is that first line of gains. And so if we can get just people there, just get everybody off of the floor and just get them up one level, everyone gets massive improvements. And we can worry about going from level 9 to 10 more effectively. Like that's what I spend most of my time doing. But I really, really am trying to encourage people, like, just don't be 0. Like just go to level 1 if we can.
Yeah. Even if it's walking outside, going for a walk and, just feeling your muscles in space, right? And just squat down, do some push-ups, just move. Like you said, don't make it complicated. You don't need a physiology degree.
You remember Herschel Walker,
Of course, yeah.
like one of the more in the pantheon of greatest physical athletes of all time, right? I think he won or was close to a national championship in track and field at Georgia in 100-meter dash probably, and then also obviously Heisman Trophy winning football player. He, so the lore goes nonetheless, did nothing. Look at his physique too, by the way, like just ungodly physique. Did nothing but push-ups, sit-ups, and sprints.
Yeah.
So not the best way to approach it.
Right.
He didn't optimize his performance, but is to say it can be that simple.
But
if it
he
needs to be.
optimized it quite a bit based on his genetic package, but then he could get away with that. But, he just moved.
Nutrition was pretty suspect as well, but you get the point is saying it can be very simple if it needs to be.
Right.
And it could be cover 90% of our bases. And if that means walking on the beach,
Yep.
we'll take the win.
What's your focus now? What's your 1, 3, 5 year? And I hate those questions.
Yeah.
But where are you going? What do you want to get in the world? What are you doing in the world? What's your next steps?
Yeah. So the two, I actually say that the single biggest thing I'm focused on is taking what we've been doing for these high level performers privately for a very long time and democratizing that.
Yeah.
That is at the fundamental core of what we're trying to do. I said earlier, 1-to-1 was always my goal scientifically, get research out and get it to humans. And now it is kind of that third Reich, which is to say, take what we've been doing from applying that science into people and the tools and technologies that are very, very expensive and get those down into consumer-friendly versions. So that's in a couple of ways. That's our blood work company. That's our sleep company. So now we're running full clinical grade, FDA-approved sleep studies on people in their houses.
Wow.
For a fraction of the cost of a traditional sleep study.
That's amazing.
We run full environmental analysis. So we have a little device that can sit in your bedroom and we can measure CO2, mold, dander, pollen, allergens, all in real time.
Wow.
Where all that stuff is there. And so we can do these things without like a sleep score or a tracker. Like we're running legitimate. We can actually build, again, like full clinical a sleep center in your bedroom that you can take with you at all times. And so that is trying to solve the problem of saying, there's hundreds of millions of people in the world with subclinical sleep disorders. And you've talked about sleep countless times. Like this is one of our fundamental core things, right?
Yeah.
But yet, why are we having so many of these problems? The sleep industry itself is really problematic. Is really, if you've ever had a sleep study done, it's a terrible experience. You're going into a really weird lab and
You're already thrown off. How are you supposed to study?
And you're going to get 1 or 2 nights. And if it's not a clinically threshold that you pass, you're going to get told, oh, your sleep's fine. And you're like, no, it's not. So being able to solve that problem was a huge, huge win.
Wow.
And getting that out to a lot of people has been a huge success.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you and I got to talk because I want to see if we can do some collaborations around some of that. Many
collaborations can be had, but we're doing all those things from, like a small example of that is, we're doing my grad student Zoe right now. Science works in the funniest ways. She was basically asking the question about, because there's been a lot of stuff come out recently on menstrual cycle based nutrition, based exercise stuff. I think most of it is being, I'd say, not communicated correctly with the true state of the research on that. And for a long time, we've been trying to do more female-specific research.
Totally.
This is not research that includes females.
Right.
This is female-specific research, right? Trying to answer questions about female performance and things like that. We just finished a study with my student Julian. We looked at the interactions of exercise, hormone-based birth control, and the gut microbiome.
Wow.
Because we know that there's been data suggesting that exercise, and we've done a lot of work on this in the past, will alter the gut microbiome. We actually have a paper published on acute changes with acute exercise, the microbiome. We also know that clearly if you're manipulating hormones exogenously one way or another, this will influence hormone concentrations. And there's a clear connection, obviously, between the gut microbiome and hormones. So there's 7 questions there. We couldn't answer them all in study 1, but we try to just say, what is study 1 here? And the answer was, man, what is this doing to our female athletes? Right? Those that are on birth control, hormone-based birth controls versus those that aren't. And is this being mitigated, augmented, or attenuated by the gut microbiome? So that was study 1. We just finished data collection on that one. So I don't have the results yet, but we finished that. And then Zoe came and was like, what's also interesting is there's lots of anecdotal reports on sleep during the menstrual cycle. And she was like, dove hard into the research, and we dove hard for probably 3 months. And I didn't find a single paper that actually measured sleep over the menstrual cycle. That was what I said, right?
Wow.
Now, there's been some stuff on like low resolution trackers and did one night with polysomnography, but I realized, well, the technology hasn't been there. Since we now have this ability, because not only can we run full polysomnography, that's like the gold standard, that's what you get at a sleep clinic, I can do that every single night. So I don't have to do a research design anymore where it's like, okay, call me when you're in day 1 of your cycle, and then you'll come in and you'll sleep in the lab, and then call me when you...
Right.
No. I'm going to do this every night on you for months. And we're going to track this thing. And so we're really excited. We're planning that study right now. We're going to start data collection on that pretty soon. But it's science like that is going to start answering questions, because I don't know if the menstrual cycle actually influences sleep quality. It certainly changes perceived energy and fatigue in not all, but many women.
Right.
But the question is that because of sleep? Maybe it isn't. Maybe we look at sleep quality and we see it doesn't change at all during the menstrual cycle. And we can say, okay, so the fatigue you're feeling is something else. It is energy deficit. It is oxygenation. Like something else is, or it's not. And it all comes down to, and then the next study would be, okay, what do we do about it? What's an intervention to try? Is it a supplement? Is it, I don't know. But the first step is, do we even know if it's different?
Right.
Because certainly a lot of women will tell you it's different.
Right. There's clearly they're having hormonal shifts and changes that are different.
Body temperature. That happens.
Male. And so then is it those things that are causing the changes, or is it the complications of those changes that are leading to lifestyle, sleep? That's what I mean. Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah. So this is...
but it's important to do it because like every... call it sauna study, ice study, everyone's based around a guy.
Everyone.
And so it's like, well, also, like, if you're already, like, jam stressed all the time, like, maybe you shouldn't jump in an ice tub, particularly right now.
Probably not a good idea.
It's like, so whoever you are, like, so a lot of these things get, sometimes I'm like, traditional Chinese medicine never uses cold. So when I get my back gets thrown out, intuitively, I never want to go on the ice.
Yep.
I put like heating pad on, I never want to go on the ice. I'm like, first off, I'm uncomfortable. I'm already fucking stressed.
Yeah.
Because my body's under that stress. I ain't going into the fucking ice tub to get more contracted.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Get more locked up.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense. I want to open. Yeah. So I get circulation. And so it's like these things, and I love, we could get into all kinds of things, but I think some of the takeaway I hope some people understand is that there's so much nuance.
Yeah.
And so much of the TikTok, Instagram real world that it's like you're not covering these nuances.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very important to listen to good interpretations of science and to understand, listen to yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of just, also people give their power away to, okay, this guy said it, so it's got to be the truth. It's like, okay, just things don't also have to be very complicated.
No.
Go to sleep, drink some water, eat a diversity of food.
Yeah.
I'll say plants.
Yeah.
But just eat whole food.
Yeah.
And move your body. Like, and then, hang out with some people you like. There's community.
So we have I haven't mentioned it, but I'll be more direct. We have a very advanced coaching program that we've had for a long time called Rapid Health and Performance. That's not just for our athletes. So we have this executive, if you want to think about it there.
Nice.
And in that, the whole foundation of Rapid is high precision coaching. So it's about an 8-month-long program. We spend 2 months collecting data.
Wow.
Before you get any coaching, not necessarily coaching, but any like actual specific programming. So this is urine, stool, saliva, hair, sweat. It is sleep analysis. It is psychological evaluations. It is breathwork testing. It is VO2 max. It is it is a very, very comprehensive program, right? I want to know everything that goes on or in your body. We're looking at what type of lotion do you use? Where do you get your water from? Where's your soap coming from? Like the environmental scanner I mentioned, like it's everything that we can possibly think of to test. So it takes people a couple of months to get, especially if they have multiple homes or they're traveling. We're like, okay, we got it all collected. We built that because, like I said earlier, I come from the background of saying, hey, the Olympics are on this day. We have a world championship fight on this day. The Super Bowl is this day, which is to say I have to perform well on this day. There is no, can we push the deadline back? There is no second chance on these. And so we stepped back and said, if this were the case with somebody else, and they said, I need to perform my best, what would you do? And I'm like, this is the program I would do, and this is what we do with our athletes. And we built that into a model. Then we take all those data come back. We then analyze, interpret everything, and then you get built high precision nutrition, supplementation, lifestyle, light, breath work, mental health, like all the programs are built
Specifically.
together for you, right?
Yeah.
So someone's program, your program might come back and might be focused on your, in your case, let's say, I'm trying to pick something that's probably the least focus you've had. Maybe you didn't work on your sleep much. So yours is going to be super focused on sleep. We'll have a little bit of exercise as a secondary priority. And then maybe you've got a handful of things going on nutritionally that are, your nutrition's great, but maybe there's a couple of things that aren't precision to your physiology that you wouldn't know without advanced labs. Okay, great. Someone else's program might be totally different. That said, even though if you could look at every one of our clients and you could see their programs are wildly different in terms of the foods they get, the timing, the type of nutrition, the training, the exercise, that they all have the same fundamental course. They're going to have some movement. Mm-hmm. They're going to have some sort of upregulation. What are you doing to give energy, right? So a fundamental problem we'll see a lot of times with people who have low energy is going, well, what are you doing to create energy? Right. Are you doing nothing? Why do we expect to have that energy unless you're creating energy? The inverse, the more common one is the opposite. Like, what are you doing to restore? Mm-hmm. So you're work, then ice bath, and then high intensity intervals. Well, fantastic. Like, where did we bring anything? And now we wonder why we're tired and we've been on TRT. Like, I mean, do you really need me to break the math down? It's the microplastics. Nope. Your testosterone's in the tank because this here, whatever, right? They're going to have, there's going to be some mental health component to it. Some people, that's 80% of their program. Some people, it's 8. Mm-hmm. But there is some, are we doing something for the long-term brain health? Right? We know the factors that go into that. Are we doing, so we have all these boxes and they are just what you, the reason I said all that is to say every one of our people have those same pillars. Right. They all have it. Now the branches of those trees go wildly different directions based on their unique physiology and their goals and their background and their preferences. And, we have, this option, that option. Okay, fine, whatever we can, but they will all have some movement, some whole food-based nutrition thing, some sort of mental health connection on top of all that, and some sort of restorative and or sleep program. So I just, again, having coached, 15 professional sports, probably 5 or 6 of the highest contracts in America right now in sports, none of them miss those holes. Right. Not always the best at all of them. Right. But like everything is going to be accounted for. Right. The folks that are okay without one of those don't end up being very long.
Right. There's a timeout period.
There's a short tail on that one for sure.
So all people, It's gonna zero in on those core.
Yeah, which is just say like, yo, if you can't afford a program like ours, you don't need no one needs a program ever. You can all figure this out enough on your own, but it's going to start there. That's kind of why I said that. It's like let you know you don't have to give me a penny ever. Right. That's never what this is about. It can be that simple. I promise you. If you have those big things ticked off and you're seeing sunlight, like you're going to be, I don't know, 50, 60, 80% of the way there. Right. And then you can probably get ChatGPT to help you out with the workout program if you need to, or like, get Renaissance periodization app. Like there's lots of ways that are affordable, sort of, hey, I want to piece this thing together on my own.
Yeah.
Some people just like the experiment. They like learning more of their body.
Sure.
And those are all options. One of the nice parts about technology being the way it is right now is a lot of those things that were not affordable are now very, very reasonable. And so now you can pick and choose. You can say, okay, I only got $500. Okay, and you want to spend that on a sleep study. Okay, or you want to spend that on just getting some better food. Okay, great. Or you want to
because they know, you all know where you're struggling.
Totally.
Right. Is it habit forming? I need accountability to show up and work out. Is it?
Yep.
Is it sleep? Is it? I never make my own food. I always go out to eat.
Totally.
Like it's we know, like, and that's the other dupe. We think we need to buy our way to a knowing. Just go with your knowing.
Yeah.
Stop with that, and then let that follow you, because you don't need more than that to get going.
Nope. I would say on average, have probably taken more technologies, more services away from people than we have given for those exact reasons. Right. Actually, I can tell this story because he gave me permission. I coach a golfer named John Rahm. He's number kind of 2 or 3 in the world right now, depending. And he has tracked his sleep for a long time, and like we were not doing well with it. And then he texted me pretty recently and was like, dude, I'm throwing this thing away. And I'm like, great, you've come to the light. Like, why? Why are you throwing it away? And he was like, well, I was feeling terrible and I kept getting 90s, 95 on the score, right? And energy was coming down or whatever, and like I'm getting these scores. And then he takes his training and his health very, very, very seriously. He's really dialed. But he's not a perfect person either. So he was like, I was on a flight from Singapore back to America or something, because he plays on Live now, so he's all over the world. And he's like, we drank a bottle of wine, and then I changed 7 time zones, and then I slept for 5 hours, and I woke up and my score was 92. And he was like, fuck this thing. Like, yeah,
this is
throw it away, right?
Yeah.
And then he texted me this weekend, because he's in Spain now. He's from Spain, but they're playing a tournament in Spain. And he's like, dude, I haven't worn the ring in 3 weeks or whatever. And he's like, my energy's double.
Right.
Because he stopped like worrying about the score or whatever.
Yeah, you get all.
So even like him, we have unlimited resources, literally. We can do whatever we want in the world with him. And he's like, no, it's not serving. It's actually making, it's not a money thing. It's like, it's not making this worse.
Sometimes you need to take away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in his case, like we know, and he knows where his biggest area where we can get benefit from. And it wasn't his sleep tracker. So he just simplified down into a one thing. And we've done that a lot actually with, I may tell more, I could drop, I made the point, but
a lot of people
taking things away, man, is there. The one thing we'll generally tell people is if you're kind of sitting this like, hey, I've never had blood work done, I've never done a sleep study, I've never had a personal trainer, like I don't kind of know where to start. And you're saying, hey, that one area. My general answer is just pick one you think you can win in. Pick one. Don't worry about the protocol. This guy said this and this girl said to do it this way. Which one? It doesn't matter. I literally don't care. What supplement, what exercise, what sleep check. I do not care. Quiet everything in your life down, which means by that I'm saying try to be consistent. This is one of our like sneaky tricks that I'll just share. But the path to victory with making any health performance change is to just step one, develop a pattern. Physiology's greatest power is pattern development. Okay, it's the biggest reason we survive as a species is because we are better at any other animal we are aware of right now at pattern recognition. And with the case of like the sleep example, one of the reasons why people develop orthosomnia, which is sleep tracker technology induced insomnia. It's a real thing. Is because you anticipate the pattern of checking the score the next day, right? And so now you're so worried about the optimal protocol and am I following it right? Am I doing this? You actually are causing, in some cases, reverse progress, right? We're losing ground. So don't worry about that. Pick one area, whether it's your sleep or your nutrition or your whatever, okay, that you think you can make progress in. Maybe you don't want to, but you think you can. Get everything else quiet, which means be consistent about everything else. Don't change your nutrition and then your supplements and then your this and then now things are in. And now what you're going to see is physiology changing in all areas, and you won't know good or bad because without giving you complicated physiology, we see this in blood work all the time. The first 3 months or so, if you take blood too quickly, especially the first month, you'll actually see some things looking like they're getting worse when they're actually not. Right. Albumin is like a really good example. So albumin is in my opinion, by far the best single blood metric in the world. It's on every basic blood panel, and people never look at it. And the reason is albumin is called an acute phase reactant, so which means it is reduced in the presence of inflammation. That number is brought down. However, it is a major marker of hydration, such as to say it'll go up when you're dehydrated. So you can do some basic math here. If you're slightly inflamed and slightly dehydrated, where's albumin? Smack in the middle.
Wow.
So every time, I promise you, if you've ever had blood work done and you're like, ain't get much out of it, and no one ever mentioned albumin, I guarantee they didn't, because it's almost always smack in the middle, right? Because many people are oftentimes a little bit or a lot inflamed and a little bit dehydrated. So that number looks like it's dead in the middle. So when we're analyzing things, and let's say you corrected the inflammation problem, but you didn't correct the dehydration problem, your albumin would have gone from normal to now high.
Right.
And now what it looked like, you're like, oh my God, I've been making all these changes. I've been dieting so hard. I've been working out in the sun, and I'm getting worse. That's what I mean when I said, like, you can't make 15 changes at once if you don't have somebody that really knows what they're doing looking at that and going, no. But then I looked at these 12 other markers and I see what's actually happening here. Your cholesterol just went up a little bit. Actually, don't worry about it. This is a response to what's happening to, like, those are known, like, we see these all the time, like blood glucose ones a ton. So quiet the system, try to be really consistent as step number one, and then play with the one thing. And even if you don't play with the one thing, just the act of getting consistent, there's actually, so I'm getting going here. There's data on when you equate groups for calories and you have just one eating a consistent pattern versus others eat in an inconsistent pattern, even same macros and calories, you'll see different amounts of body composition changes in the group that's eating consistently. So that's not to say you should eat at the same time every single day. Again, we want to be resilient and robust and be able to go 2 days without eating and still perform. And But at the same time, if you're trying to make change and get progress and you're struggling with it, that inconsistency is going to throw inconsistency into your output. So now you don't know what's going on. That's when you get frustrated and quit. And so from a coaching perspective, not a long-term strategy, be very consistent with whatever you're doing as much as you can, and then we'll worry about details later.
Right. That's perfect, I think, example, because the focus of that new habit and that new physiological kind of pathway, that's the Everest anyway.
Yeah.
You know, dude, thank you. This has been so good. And rabbit holes, man. Yeah. It's just like there's so much, and I think the understanding that I want people to come away with is just, it's simple.
Yep.
It can be simple in its complexity, and also don't be swayed by oversimplification of the complexity from some rando person on.
Yeah, even honestly, not rando. Like, there's a lot. I try to do my best when I am speaking in public like this to understand there's a lot of different ears listening.
Yeah.
But I don't always get that out there, right? So my assumption of what you value is still an assumption.
Yeah.
Right? So it's to say, even the things I say, you should be asking yourself, is that going to apply in my context? Is he really talking about when he says something is good or great or a terrible idea? Is that the same output I'm looking for?
Right.
and then realize that, again, any study can give you one piece of information, but we want multiple lines of evidence in multiple areas from multiple labs.
Yeah.
And all that science can ever really do is, at this point, give you insights as to what's most likely to work in most people most of the time. That's as much as we can get at this point. Now, science is changing. Precision sleep, precision nutrition, these things are getting better. But right now, it's just a starting place of saying, hey, if you go to try to make a change, what's probably most likely to work, be consistent in that experiment. And then if it's not, though, now this is when your intuition and going, hey, I tried that dang thing, and this girl was all over it, and her argument was great, and the data looks great, but it didn't work. Every time someone hits me with that, I'm like, I believe you. And I was shocked. I'm like, yeah, creatine, it's great. Works for almost everybody, but it doesn't work for literally everybody. Nothing is a panacea, right? Nothing's perfect for everyone. So at that point, simplify. Try to find the big things that work for you the most, and then double, triple, quadruple down on those things. If you have a 60, 80-year vision on top of that, which is to say, okay, didn't work this month, but we got a decade.
Yeah.
We got 5 decades. Like, what's going to work long term? And those core principles we've talked about a couple of times, they're not going to lead anybody astray over a 100-year trajectory. They just never will.
There we go. Thanks, brother.
Cool.
So stoked. Thanks, brother.